So my head's getting pounded like right here. Again, I can reach out and I can feel a force pushing down my hand. My hand actually hurts right now. That's partially blocking the sensation from my head. I think they have two beams on my head. But again, Dad, this is not in my fucking head. Robin, Tom, doctors, this is not in my head. It's hurting my head, but it's not in my head. It's like if I can block it, and again, I have witnesses that have felt these beams on me, and that there are other victims that have felt these beams on them. Two victims and two witnesses, myself included, did provide independent supporting statements to a Travis County sergeant in writing and in person, and also to the APD, and the APD was notified of this. And nobody's doing anything. And so every fucking day, 24/7, and again, don't ask me why somebody would do this 24/7. I don't know why somebody would do this. Oop. My hand hurts. Hand's feeling the pressure pushing down on it. And it's also feeling like a little trickling of like electricity or something like that. But and they're constantly commenting during the whole thing. They're constantly saying like, you should kill yourself. Again, I'm not suicidal. I'm telling you what they're telling me. And even if I was schizophrenic, which I'm not, you don't become schizophrenic at age 41 without a history present or a history of mental illness. They're like, you should kill yourself. Oh, we'll get you to kill yourself by your birthday. We'll get you to kill yourself by the end of the year. We're talking through right now. Using the magic of voice to skull technology, which has been around for over 50 years. What are we saying to Kit? This is them. I'm going to tell you what they say. I thought we were going to wait. Say we're doing that thing. This is not Kip speaking. I mean, Kip is saying what we're saying, but this is not coming from Kip's head right now. Well, it's going into Kip's ears and then to Kip's head and then to his mouth. But that hurts Kip, doesn't it? We're pounding Kip on the side of his head or the back of his head, kind of in the corner. Kip is experiencing something very strange right now. He's talking about himself in the third person. And he looks a lot crazier now, doesn't he? What we're mimicking right now is if you had headphones on and we're listening to an audio, as Kip has stated before to other people, there would probably be gaps in which Kip is like listening and then saying that information to someone who's listening or watching. But we're mimicking that right now. It's actually more of a real-time application. Mentalists and magicians use it when they pretend to pick numbers from your brain. Kip is correct on that. And we're abusing it. And isn't it wonderful that we can do this? Isn't it wonderful that and Kip is hearing some other tracks right now. He's hearing someone talk to him, but it's not the same track. But it sounds similar to the track that we're sending to him to talk. And he looks crazy, doesn't he? But he's not crazy. He's correct. No one becomes schizophrenic at age 41 without a history of mental illness. He keeps saying history of present illness because he worked at a EHR company, and HPI was a section of the visit note, history of present illness. And isn't it wonderful that I'm one of these terrorists right now, part of this Gangstalking group, and we're still pounding Kip's head, and we're still zapping his crotch, and we're sexually assaulting him and physically assaulting him every single day, and Kip's dad won't do anything about it, and Kip won't actually send him these videos directly because he's waiting for it to be all perfect and tied up with a nice neat bow. See, Kip actually heard that last phrase before I said it, but he didn't say it, and he doesn't understand quite what causes him to say something and what causes him to not say something, because he's hearing multiple audio tracks at the same time. But what causes the one for him to actually say something? And we won't reveal that. So he actually took some headache medicine, and he's not actually sure if it helps with the pain. But one thing that the reason why it does help is we'll pretend that it helps, and so we'll slowly let it subside. I think this is amazing. Kip won't actually talk to us anymore. He's really pissed off about us. He is correct. They would not give him water. The Manor Police Department or the Travis County Sheriff's Department would not give him water. If you actually pull the most recent video, Alan, or Kip's dad, or Kip will probably do it himself because he's doing everything himself while we're doing all this, and we feel really bad for the guy, but then we don't. We keep doing this, and nobody gives a shit. And Robin, you keep saying you wish there was something you could do. Well, you could tell Kip's father to believe him, and Tom, you could tell Kip that you believe him and actually really believe him, but you don't believe him. Because if you believed him, as Kip said, like pretend that he's being held hostage and being tortured every single day, and the cops won't do anything about it. You guys are not acting in any sort of way like Kip was actually being tortured daily. You think it's in his head, and even if it was in his head, you're still not really you're really not being that sympathetic. Robin's sounding sympathetic, and she keeps saying she's going to send money for a car that she essentially stole from him, and Kip doesn't feel that way, but he was a little bit miffed about what you said, Robin. And look, we're getting Kip in trouble right now because we're talking about something that is personal to him and is none of our business. But Robin, that car's worth probably like $5,000 or something like that, even the condition that it was in. And okay, we're gonna stop that. I've been told that I shouldn't say that anymore. But then again, like I'm also being told we shouldn't torture Kip anymore, but we're still doing that. We're terrorists. Everything Kip said in that document is true, Carrie. And you're just gonna think Kip is crazy right now, but he's actually saying exactly what we're saying to him. And he's hearing additional things that we're saying to him that's not coming out of his mouth. And he doesn't understand. He thinks of it as audio tracks because that's the simplest explanation to think about it. And that's kind of correct. It's amazing. Maybe what he's hearing is in the background, and so he's hearing like the voice that's the loudest. Is that the case? Well, maybe someone could look into the voice to skull technology because the police are very well aware of it. They're very well aware of crowd control devices, and we're not going to tell them if we're actually using crowd control devices on them or not. But that's a reasonable explanation, and the cops are in on it. And we do try to get our victims, including Kip, to seek revenge against those officers, both in the innocent ones and the sketchy ones that help us out. And Kip is actually correct, but no one's going to do anything about it, and that's how confident we are that we're not going to get caught, and we're going to keep torturing him until we get caught. Isn't this a wonderful video? Wow, we're at 8 minutes and 8 seconds. Oh, this one will go up to 12 minutes and 35 seconds. And we can also look through walls. Again, Kip is choosing not to say anything further. He's probably not going to say anything maybe at the end of the video. And see, when we do that, does Kip have Tourette's? No, we're zapping Kip's face right now. Alan thought that it was like if we were attacking Kip, then like Tim would feel it and he would feel it. We actually are fucking with Alan and Tim. Kip could detect it. Tim has already been able to detect when Kip starts speaking like this, his tone changes slightly. We haven't changed it that much, but if you've hung around Kip a lot, especially recently, you'll notice a change in his voice whenever he lets us speak through him like this, and he lets us talk like this. And Tim can detect it right away now. And Kip is correct. He shouldn't have been arrested, but that the officer is a sketchy officer, and he's with us, but he's not with us, but he is with us. But he shouldn't have arrested. He should have just dropped Kip off with the dog and let that be it, and then contacted the crisis team. But they did torture him, and if you look at those videos, you'll see that he was tortured. You'll see he was being electrocuted, not by a taser. And he's correct that EMT did actually put an empty bag of IV up there. And Kip told him, Kip had to tell him 3 times that there was an empty bag of IV, because Kip was sober the whole time. And when they handcuffed him to the gurney or whatever, or strapped him down, the officer that did that, if he has a body cam on it, you can see Kip crying out in pain. You don't need to, and it's funny that we're terrorists, but we're actually quoting Kip on this because, I mean, we're just going to be honest about that to a certain extent. But the officer tied him down like 2 or 3 times. I think he was handcuffed or something or then they tied a rope to it, and they tied it really tight, and they intentionally made it hurt. So whether or not that officer was sketchy with us, he's a sketchy officer nonetheless, because if he thought Kip was mentally ill or on drugs or something, you still don't treat someone like that. And if he did have a body cam on him, it would be very important to pull that video. And Kip is probably going to have to pull that video because Kip has to do all the work, because Carrie won't hire a private investigator, and which is kind of strange, because if someone is a victim of all this, wouldn't you think it would be your job? And Carrie, the only thing that you said, and again, this is not Kip saying this, Kip is just repeating what we're saying. He's not really repeating it, he's really saying it in real time. But he told you he was under attack, and he kind of gave you one reference, and you still didn't hire that person. And Kip was like, you can't Google it. And Carrie, like, why didn't you hire a private investigator? If you'd hired a private investigator, this probably would have been solved a long time ago, or at least we probably would have left him alone. But Kip is correct. He's a logistical issue because we're watching him. So if he hires someone, we're going to watch that person. So when that person tries to come out and catch us, we're going to know about it. We're going to be following that person and watching their plan, and then we're going to try to fuck up their plan all along. So if they do go to talk to the people at Red River, and I fumbled there. Kip isn't fumbling. This is me fumbling. I think we'll leave it at that because we're running out of time. Oh, and if you look at the other video, Carrie and Tom and Robin and Alan and everybody else, there's a video where Kip is showing that there's projections on the TV and on the walls. And then he goes, oh, and the Gangstalkers, and then he lets us talk through him like this a little bit. If you notice on that, we say camera, the camera isn't recording, and then it cuts off. So Kip isn't doing it in selfie mode. So he can't actually see the screen that's actually recording him. So that should be a sign, Carrie, that Kip is telling the truth. Because how would we tell him that the camera was out? Because it cuts out right after that. Don't you think that's an interesting coincidence? And don't you think you owe Kip an apology? The fact that like he was correct in his recollection of what happened at Red River Family Practice, because we did get them to do what Kip said, and no one will look into it, even the APD. You should hire a private investigator, and you should hire a team to catch us, but you're not going to, and so Kip is just going to look crazy.